Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Virgo514 from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, and it says, am I the arsehole for telling my husband he works for himself, not for our family? My husband and I have known each other for 6 years and been married for almost 3 years now. We've got a 1-year-old and we're expecting another baby. Our marriage has been full of emotional highs. We love each other and let the other know regularly. My husband has a 9-to-5 job, after which he is also a tutor. It started this back when we were in college, and it was never an issue. He's always had enough time. Even in the years leading up to the marriage and the first year of our marriage, this was never an issue. However, in the past year or so, it's become a big issue, and it's getting worse. He keeps on adding more classes to his schedule. Until last month, we had a red line that no classes on Sunday. He would devote that entire time to us. But last month, he even added a class on Sunday on the excuse that exams are starting. It started to feel like me and my son weren't a priority to him anymore. Some days he comes home at 11. On other days he's doing it online. But that's not much better because he still can't give us any time. Last Sunday I finally spoke out and told him he was neglecting his family. He was offended and told me that he doesn't enjoy having to work so hard, but he's doing it for our family. This is where I told him that no, I think he does enjoy it. It gives him an excuse not to spend time with us, and that he was doing this for himself, not for us. As things currently stand, our collective income is more than enough. There really was no need for him to add more classes on top of his existing ones. He's doing it for himself at this point. He's literally busy Monday to Saturday, and now he's trying to cross the red line we established for Sunday. We've been on bad terms since this fight. He keeps saying he can't believe that I said he works for himself, not for us. Am I the arsehole? The first commenter said on this one, it's going to be hard, and you're going to have to grit your teeth through it. But if he is working all the time to support his family, love the man and cherish the little time you get with him. He's grinding to support you all. Would you rather spend all the time in the world together and living in squalor or on the streets? Please support him while he supports his family. Hell, have you told him that you're proud of him working so hard? Opie says, I have a 9-to-5 job too. Like I said, our collective income covers our expenses and then some. If that weren't the case, of course I wouldn't be angry. I would understand. But given the situation, the fact that he took away the one day we get together just because it's exam season really got to me. I also want to make clear I absolutely appreciate how he provides for us to give us a great standard of living. And I've told him this many times. But now it feels like he's adding more work to disengage. Another commenter says, info. Did he grow up lower income? His father may have worked himself to the bone to keep them above water, so it may be all he knows. Opie says no, both his parents are doctors. That was certainly not the case. Another commenter says, info. I see where you're coming from, but I gotta ask. You sound like you feel secure about your financial situation, but does he? You're expecting another kid. You have a 1-year-old with another on the way. I don't know where you're based, but certain regions are more expensive than others for families to live in. Based on just that information alone, there could be plenty of thought put behind whether or not you guys have the financial stability for the future. You clearly think so, but does your husband? Have you ever had that conversation with him, fruitfully, honestly, about the objective truth of your financial stability and his and your thoughts on it? Opie says yes, we've had that discussion before. We talked about how since we're already comfortable, there shouldn't be any need to have a class on Sunday. In fact, at that time, I also thought he should cut down on existing classes, but relented on the Sunday agreement. I didn't think that the numbers were important, but a lot of comments, not you, seemed to doubt my judgment, that we're stable. I'm an accountant who makes $70,000 a year. My husband is a software engineer who makes around over $100,000. And based on how many students he teaches and how many classes he has, he makes over $100,000 from that. Our household income covers our expenses. I'm an accountant. This is kind of my bread and butter. So Opie came in with her first update and said thank you for the feedback in the last post. The comment said that me asking him to adhere to the boundaries we established was reasonable. Some comments also suggested that I should not have implied that he works just to get away, so I was a little apologetic as well. After he came back, I decided to talk to him about this. The conversation was a bit of a train wreck. I brought up the fact that our income far exceeds our current and projected expenses, that me and our son were missing him and needed him to spend more time with us, and I made sure to stress that I appreciated all that he did. It just seemed like we're on completely different wavelengths. He said he kept on taking more lessons than students because he wanted us to have a good standard of living, have better vacations, better schools, a second house. I was dumbfounded. I never knew he felt that way. I stressed our current standard of living was great, we make enough money, and that if he thinks there's no end in sight, what if he decided we should have a third house or something? Right now, I needed him with me. At this point, I kind of lost control and started crying. I didn't mean to. It wasn't something I wanted to do to pressure him or anything. Just the fact that we're at an impasse was wrecking me. I told him I'd been feeling unhappy, that I kept compromising, and he reneged on it. After some more crying and consoling, my husband agreed that Sunday should have remained off limits. He gently asked me to give him a pass for one more Sunday, because his students' exams end next week, and he would make Sunday untouchable the following semester onwards. He also promised to try and resize his classes in order to be able to come back home for dinner, even if it's late dinner. He asked for time to do all of this. I've given it to him, and I know he loves us enough to do what he promised. Thanks for the feedback to the original post. Commenter says to OP, you need to tell him that he needs to get right with his family and you right now, or he might be living in that third house alone. Play him Cats in the Cradle as background music. OP says, I would like the changes to happen immediately, but I want those changes to be permanent. If he does something at a snap right now but has to go back, that would suck. So I'm just giving him the time to make those sustainable changes. I'm getting our Sunday back after the next one, which is progress. At least we're back to the red line. He said he'd already booked a lot of classes for the next semester, so he'd asked for time to discuss and rearrange them since he can't say no to his students after agreeing. He was earnest. I believe I made it known to him the toll it's been taking on me, and he will make the necessary changes. Another commenter says, OP, you did a good job and took an important first step. I think it would be unrealistic for him to do a complete 180 after this conversation, and this is a necessary stepping stone. I'm usually very negative about relationships, but it disheartened me to see all the top comments being so negative when you took the time to update us, and you didn't need to. I hope things continue to improve for you. OP says thank you. I had thought I did good, and then found out a lot of people here disagreed. So I started doubting how I did. I appreciate what everyone is saying, but he's a loving husband, friend, and father. It's just this one issue that's just gotten out of hand. I can't think of packing my bags. I believe he was neglecting us, but during the conversation realized he didn't know the extent to which it was affecting us. The classes issue has been getting bigger and bigger over time, so I realized fixing it will require some time. I'm just going to make sure I see him do it. Commenter says, have you guys considered hiring a maid/nanny to help with the household duties? If you're making enough money, it could be worth the investment to reduce your burden. OP says, yeah, that came up in the conversation and I'm looking into it. My job is work from home 2 days of the week, so that helps, and my mum lives close by, which is super helpful too. Most days I manage the household and child rearing without any issues. Like, it's not like I plan to give him a list of errands to run on the days he's in the house, but him just being physically present is something I'm missing now, and he promised to remedy it as well as he can. And the last commenter says, the biggest problem I see that his self-worth is being validated by students and classes, more than by his own family. He likes how teaching makes him feel, and doesn't get the same validation from just being a husband and father. So, he will continue to prefer working as much as he can. And it's a double whammy because he justifies the extra work is for his family. So he feels doubly validated for doing good things. OP says, your comment stayed with me for some reason, and I kept coming back to it. I asked him yesterday if he enjoyed teaching physics and math for hours on end. That he worked so long, how does he not start hating it? I didn't bring up the topic of reduced hours or Sunday because we already have an agreement on that for now. He says he does like it. After some more inconspicuous needling, he told me he enjoys the fact that so many people trust that he can make them understand stuff and better their grades/future. I didn't go further into it. but your comment really helped give me some insight. Thank you so much. So a year after those posts, OP comes in with what they titled their final update and says, around a year ago, I'd been having issues with my husband regarding his tutoring schedule, and I'd come here to know if I was in the wrong. A few people had asked me to let them know if things improve or continue to deteriorate. We're in a better place now. We've been blessed with a daughter now too. He's become better at handling his workload and tutors primarily online now. I know I had said at the time that's not much better, but it really is. Sundays have become sacrosanct again, with very rare exceptions that he asked my approval for in advance, and Wednesdays are free now too. He does more group tutoring now and gets done by 8:30 most days too. He also got a new day job which is entirely work from home, which has made things much better because he isn't so burnt out anymore. In the weeks following up to my daughter's arrival, he'd been by my side, especially since she arrived during the summer when school is out. I also took some advice from here and hired help to ease the burden, which has worked out really well. I also learned to embrace the fact that his tutoring gives him joy, which maybe his software development job doesn't. He seems to be proud when his students get into good universities, and that it results in even more students. He still claims to do it for purely financial reasons, but I know that can't be completely true, because our financial needs really do not require it. So it must be something he enjoys. So I've become more understanding on that front too. I had to put my foot down a few times though, especially in the initial days following our conversation, to make sure he understands that I was serious about needing his presence more. I had also confided in his older sister about the issue, which he was not happy about at the time and was probably an accidental arsehole move on my end. But it helped. They had an argument. She straight up told him that he was either going to end up working his way into an early grave at the age of 30 or ending up divorced, which helped. Full disclosure, the only time we ever really argue is still about this when I want him to be free, but he won't be. But it's rare, and overall we've come up with a good balance that seems to be working for us. Thank you. And there's a comment on that one that says, I think my questions are, is he missing things? What do you need support with? What's the actual crux of the issue? I read your post and it speaks to a lot of how you feel, but, and apologies if I missed it in the comments, but is he actually not pulling his weight at home? Is he missing important events? I agree it's important to spend time together as a family unit, but usually when working on improving relationships, feedback needs to be specific and actionable. OP says, we don't get to have our evening tea where we used to decompress except on Wednesdays and Sundays. I know that doesn't sound like much, but I really enjoy that, and it's unfortunate he's not missing that. Sometimes he'll miss dinner, but he really tries to avoid it, I know. As far as important events go, all of our friends and family now know that Saturdays don't work for us, so they avoid it if possible. But the other day, a family friend had a gender reveal party on Saturday, and my husband couldn't accompany me. Little things like that still happen. If I'm being very honest, when my son was born, I had a picture in my mind of what our house would look like after 5 PM. It involved my husband always being there, and us all having quality family time. The fact that that didn't happen is what my real issue is. I know life gets in the way, but I'm concerned about how we're developing our bonds as a family sometimes. As far as chores go, we've had some help, and my mum being close really helps too, so that's not too big of an issue. Commenter said, this is so sad. Imagine having to go through all this to force your spouse to spend time with you and your kid. It's sad that your idea of better is still him barely being around except for one full day a week. At the end of the day, if the choice was up to him, he'd rather spend time tutoring than with you and his own child. That's because he's not doing it for money like he said. He's doing it so he doesn't have to be around you guys. It's so sad that you've accepted it. Another commenter says, it sounds as if the situation is still a sort of work in progress, but it's getting more positive for both of you, and resentment isn't growing on either side. That's good, and congratulations on your daughter. And I think it's fair to say that the comments went either way after this. Some people still saying, he wouldn't be there if he didn't have to. Other people saying it is progress. And other people saying, she's dealing with a majority of the childcare here. But what do you guys make of this situation? Do you think it's progress or not? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Not a Piggy Bank and says, "Am I the arsehole for refusing to pay for college? I, 51 male, have 2 children. Katie, female 17, and Mark, male 15. I'm seeing a lovely lady, Alice, who has 1 child, Eliza, female 17. We met because our daughters are friends and have been seeing each other about 18 months and have lived together for 6 months. Though we currently live together, our finances are pretty separate. Financially, I do pretty well and make more than she does, so I pay about 80% of their house bills. In addition, we both pay for our individual expenses and those of our children. Clothes, cars, cell phones, spending money, etc. It had been going really well, and we're talking marriage, which means combined finances. So we started looking at what a budget might look like, and it went pretty well, though we both had to compromise a bit on what we wanted. Then we got to college savings. I put a certain amount of money into Katie and Mark's college funds each month, and I assumed we would be doing the same for Eliza. It turns out that Eliza does not have a college savings account. There is no money set aside for her future education at all. I was stunned. I know Eliza is planning on going to college. Where to go is one of the favorite topics of conversation at the dinner table for both girls. Eliza is not gifted athletically or academically, so there is a little chance of a scholarship. I asked Alice what her plan was, and she replied that she didn't have one. I pointed out how expensive college was. She asked me how much I've saved for Katie and Mark, so I pulled up those accounts. She said that was plenty. We could just divide in 3. I said absolutely not. I'd started saving that money for each of the kids before they were even born, and it belonged to them. She said, what about treating the kids equally? I replied that equally meant giving each of them the same amount going forward, not taking money away from 2 of them to give to the other. She said, what about the retirement funds? I said no again because both of the hits we would take on taxes and what it would do to our early retirement plans. I'd worked hard to save to be able to retire early and travel. Alice said it was unfair to Eliza not to pay for her college when I'm paying for the other 2. And I agree. But you don't start planning on how to pay for college when the kid is 17. It's not Eliza's fault, but it's not mine either. Alice is accusing me of not caring about Eliza, that I would find a way if it was my child. I told her that I did find a way for my kids. It was saving for their entire life, not hoping that tens of thousands of dollars would magically appear. It went downhill from there. At this point, Alice and I are not speaking. We won't be getting married, and I seriously doubt we'll be together very much longer. I don't think I'm wrong, and neither do the people that I talk to. However, I admit that they are biased towards me. I'm coming here to get an outsider perspective. Am I the arsehole? Illumi says not the arsehole. Alice sounds like she's looking for a little bit of sugar daddy money pretty late in the game. It comes across pretty sketchy for her to show up and throw a kid in with yours and assume the bill would be footed. I would take this whole situation as a red flag at bare minimum. OP replies that saying, I didn't put it in the post because of the character limit, but Alice and I had talked about our expectations. We did say we wanted the kids treated equally by both of us. Illumi replies that saying, I get where you're coming from, but what I sincerely can't get is like, if she wanted her kid to have college money, why didn't she have any kind of plan outside of finding a man with a wallet whose heartstrings she could tug on? Username taken says info. Did she have the financial ability to save for college and just didn't? There are many people who can't save because they're literally just making it paycheck to paycheck. You said you make significantly more, so I'm wondering if she even had the option of saving like you did. I don't think it'd be fair to take away from the savings of the other 2, but I do feel bad for Eliza and understand her mother trying to figure something out. As it is now, she could still go to college by getting grants, loans, and student aid. I'm just wondering if you guys got married, would she have to submit the combined income of you and her mum, or just her mother? I went to college with financial aid and loans. It definitely can be done, but I had to put my parents' income. I'm not sure how that would work with step-parents, especially if they just got married. Would you be willing to help by co-signing / helping to pay for student loans? Definitely not your fault or Eliza's, and it does seem really unfair to her. But it may not be Alice's fault either, depending on her financial situation before you. Hope you guys can work it out and come up with a solution that lets her go to school and you guys can be happily married. OP responds to that saying, "I think it's a bit of both. I didn't know her at the time, but it is my understanding that Alice really struggled after she left her husband, and he was a deadbeat. You know, the kind of guy that would quit a job rather than pay child support. In the last 5 years or so, she changed jobs and things got better. But at the time I met her, I think things were okay. We didn't talk about finances in detail, just at a high level. I made more than her, so I paid most of the joint bills when she moved in with me. That right there had to save her a pretty good chunk of money. She'd buy expensive things for herself and Eliza, but I spoil my kids sometimes too. I just assumed, yeah, I know the cliche, that she had her finances under control. But during that time, she didn't save anything for Eliza. I'm not an expert on financial aid. I'd always known my kids wouldn't qualify for grants, and I planned to pay the entire cost so they didn't have to get loans. I think it is the combined income of the household, but I'm not positive. If that is true, us not being together might actually be helpful to Eliza. One bright spot in this whole mess. I'm not willing to co-sign. I got burned on that years ago. I would not co-sign for my children either. They, Eliza included, have all heard my spiel on the evils of co-signing. I was willing to contribute to Eliza's college fund, just like I do for Katie and Mark. I'm planning to keep contributing until their last semester. I do not want to take on debt. I'm pretty sure Alice and I are done. I try very hard never to make a decision when I'm angry, so I'm giving myself a few days to cool off, but I don't know if I can get past this. 101 Geese says, does Eliza have a bio dad who may be able to help her? OP says Eliza does have a bio dad, but he's not going to help her. She hasn't seen him in years. Beatings Galore says, not the arsehole. My only question to her would have been, was how she was planning to pay before you came into the picture. OP says, I've asked as well, but got no answer. OP then added more info about Alice. It's probably a combination of responsibility and opportunity. Alice had been a single mum to Eliza for about 10 years. I know she struggled for at least part of that time. Eliza's dad is a bit of a deadbeat. However, I also know that Alice also spends a lot of money on non-essentials like designer clothing, shoes, etc. For the last 6 months, we've lived together and her living expenses have gone way down because of it. She has bought clothing for herself and Eliza and stupidly expensive shoes, but still doesn't have a dime saved for Eliza's college. There is nothing wrong with treating yourself if you can afford it, but she was certainly not prioritizing Eliza's college education. And more about OP and Eliza's relationship and helping her with tuition. OP says, but yes, I see your point. However, I wasn't in Eliza's life at all until 3 years ago. I didn't start seeing her mother until after that, and we've only been living in the same home for 6 months. College isn't something you fund in a year. Yes, I am better off financially than a lot of people, but I don't have a spare 20 to 40k a year laying around. I will not touch my children's accounts, and I'm not willing to dip into my retirement accounts. So 2.5 months later, OP comes in with her update and says several people have asked for an update to my previous post, then shares the link. Alice and Eliza moved out on the 1st. Our relationship is officially over, though it really ended when all of this first came to light. Alice and I were able to sit down together and develop a plan on how to move forward and how to tell the kids. Alice was not able to move out immediately. She needed to find a place she could afford in our same school district. Alice and Eliza finally had their long overdue conversation about the lack of college savings, and it did not go well at all. There was a lot of yelling and tears on both sides. I could hear the screaming from a different room. Eliza is barely speaking to her mother now. I spoke with Mark and Katie. They were both confused as to why Alice wouldn't tell Eliza that there weren't any savings, and I couldn't help them with that. Katie, my sweet little girl, asked if she could give some of her fund to Eliza, and I told her no. That money had been set aside for her, and she is the only one it is going to be used for. She wasn't happy with that answer, but didn't fight me on it. All of the kids wanted to know if Alice and I were breaking up, and we told them yes, that Alice and Eliza would be moving out. We emphasized that we were breaking up because we found we weren't compatible. It had nothing to do with them. The kids were upset, of course, so the girls were far more upset than Mark. They loved living in the same house together, and I told Eliza that she was still welcome to come over, just like she did before Alice and she moved in. That just because Alice and I weren't together didn't mean they didn't get to be friends. I did sit down and talk to Alice and Eliza about options for college. Some of what I learned was from the comments from my previous post, so thank you all. It turns out there are actually experts on financial aid that you can go to that can help. They will explain loan options and even help you apply for scholarships you might be eligible for. I paid for Alice and Eliza to talk to one. Eliza has amazed me through all of this. While she is furious with her mother, she is still determined to go to college and to accumulate as little debt as possible. She asked me to help her with her planning and I agreed. I think I'm turning into a spreadsheet junkie. She has also gotten an after-school job and is saving every penny she can. I think she's going to be okay. But now, I'm going to turn this one straight to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, your support, your time, it always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.